Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Sunday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. So who should play Lex Luthor in James Gunn's and Peter Safran's brand new DC Universe? We now know we're getting a brand spanking new version of Superman, which clears away the mist. We now know that Jesse Eisenberg will not be returning as Lex Luthor. I'm okay with that. I really enjoyed what Jesse Eisenberg did as Lex Luthor, but his time has passed. So who should we cast, or should I say fan cast, as Lex Luthor in DC Universe? Well, with Michael Rosenbaum being really good friends with James Gunn, this has to be a fan casting we need to talk about. Because Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville has proven he can play the nice, good, kind of amiable Lex Luthor, but when called upon, he also played the evil megalomaniac in the later seasons of Smallville. So Michael Rosenbaum has proven he can do it. Michael Rosenbaum must be around 45, 50 years old now. Lex has always been older than Superman, so this would be absolutely perfect. Michael Rosenbaum should have been cast as Lex Luthor in the DC Extended Universe, but they went with Jesse Eisenberg. Now, I remember when they announced Jesse, I thought, what the fuck are they doing? But I kind of calmed down about it because I did know that Jesse was one of this generation's, greatest talents in terms of indie movies. So I thought, right, let's give him a chance. It was like the Batfleck casting at first. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? But once I saw what they did with him, I thought, wow, this is really, really good. So for me, Jesse was a great Lex Luthor ultimately, but now I think we want a comic book accurate Lex Luthor. And I think with what we've seen from the new DC Studios logo, that they really are going to be going for comic book accurate, castings for these DC iconic characters. And I don't think there's anyone better than Michael Rosenbaum to play Lex Luthor. Some people will say people will get confused. No, they won't. This is a brand new universe. This is the multiverse. So we can have a Lex Luthor who looks like another Lex Luthor playing a totally different Lex Luthor in a brand new universe. You could have Henry Cavill, who's played Superman, play Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's actually something that will be really, really cool. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I actually do feel that Henry Cavill would make a great Bruce Wayne and Batman, but I'm sure I'm in the minority of that. We'll wait and see to see what happens there, if anything. But yeah, I think Michael Rosenbaum must be the number one choice to play Lex Luthor in the new DC Universe. I don't see it happening because life isn't that kind, let's be honest about it. But I do feel he will be absolutely perfect. If we don't get Michael, I think we should just look at unknown actors for this role. But I think if you're looking for star power, if you're looking for someone who's proven they can play Lex Luthor, it has to be Michael Rosenbaum. He can do it. It's very interesting with Michael because I predicted good things for Michael when he was on Smallville. I thought this is one of the greatest, most talented actors I've ever seen. And literally all he's doing today is doing podcasts and talking about Smallville, which is really strange to me. So I'd love to know what happened to Michael Rosenbaum and why he's not being nominated for Oscars and being cast in these, kind of Oscar-baited kind of movies, because he's that talented. He proved it on Smallville. He was probably one of the most talented actors on the show. So this would be a great opportunity for Michael Rosenbaum as well. And I would support that casting because Michael Rosenbaum is a really, really special actor, and Lex Luthor needs someone. You have to believe that whoever's playing Lex is that bad and is that maniacal, if you like. He's a very unique character because he's not a moustache-twirling villain. He's a billionaire. He has some right-wing ethics as well, probably more far-right ethics, but it's not really about kind of people who come from other countries in terms of this, but it's actually about alien incursions. He sees aliens as a threat, and he sees Superman as the biggest threat, and this is the real reason they are enemies. And also Lex sees himself as a hero, and I think he kind of did this in Smallville. Alan Miles and Michael did this perfectly. He does see himself as a white knight. He doesn't really see himself as a villain or a killer or a bad guy. Of course, he is a bad guy. But the best villains don't see themselves as bad guys. We saw a very similar take on General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, in 2013's Man of Steel. And this is what made him such a great villain. So Michael Rosenbaum would be absolutely perfect for this role. I can't really think of any actors in the industry today that I would pick to play Lex Luthor over Michael Rosenbaum, if I'm honest. And that's why I said, if it isn't Michael, you must go for someone unknown. I'm sure there's some great actors out there that I can't think of right now. But the usual fan picks, no. I don't agree with them. When people say to me, well, what about this actor and what about that actor? No, I don't. I mean, like Billy Zane. I've never been a fan of this Billy Zane fan casting as Lex Luthor. Or the other guy, the older dude, I forgot his name. He was in that very successful series, Breaking Bad. Forgot his name now. Played Walter White, didn't he? Never saw that show, by the way. I know, I'm embarrassed to admit that. But yeah, those type of fan castings don't do anything for me, although the kind of age difference between a 20 to 23-year-old Superman would make sense. So for me, Michael Rosenbaum would be my pick as Lex Luthor. And believe you me, because I don't think this is going to happen, but if this became a reality, I would be jumping around like a fucking jack-in-the-box with excitement, because Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor meant so much to me. I mean, I started watching Smallville season 1 when it first aired. I was around 28 years old. I'm 50 now. Michael inspired me to want to act. His acting, the way he portrayed it, the way he took it seriously, the way he's protected the legacy of his Lex Luthor by refusing to be on Crisis on Infinite Earths. We all saw what they did to Smallville's Clark Kent on Crisis. It was despicable. And thankfully, Michael understood they were going to do the same thing to him. I don't think Michael's a big fan of the industry. He knows it's very corrupt. And I think this is why he's not involved in the industry any longer. But he and James Gunn are really good friends. So he would trust James not to stitch him up. So this could be an incredible partnership. For me, it's not even a debate. He would be a perfect Lex Luthor. And I can't see the problem. I can't see any problems with casting him as Lex. As I say, he'd be the right age because Lex has always been older than Clark and Superman. And with Superman probably being around 20 to 23. Now, this is just a guess because it's James Gunn who said this will be a Superman at the early stages of his career, which makes him younger than Henry Cavill, but how much younger? That's what we don't know. So we're really insinuating a lot when we say he's a really young Superman. But considering this is the early stages, normally Superman, when he takes on the mantle of being Superman, he's around 25 to 30. With Michael Rosenbaum being around 48, 50 now, whatever he is, he's at the perfect age. He's not too young. He's not too old. Michael would nail this. And to have Michael as the DC Universe's Lex Luthor would make me utterly proud because I spent, not a decade, but 7 seasons watching him nail this character in a series. People will say we had a series, he had time to perfect the character. It doesn't matter. He was the perfect Lex Luthor, end of story. So that's Lex Luthor. But what actor is going to play Superman? Well, are we actually getting a bona fide OG Superman here? Or are we getting John Kent, Superboy, who ultimately becomes Superman? Will they use the OG Superman, but will we still have John Kent, Superboy, who ultimately becomes Superman in the end? Now, we've had a recent graphic novel where Superman goes out in space and literally appoints his son John Kent, as the new Superman. So could John Kent actually be the new Superman? It's a possibility. Why, if it is a fact, because we don't know this, we don't know the age of the actor or the age of the Superman James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to use. Why is it important that maybe it is a very good idea that we do have a Superman around 20 to 23? And is it a good idea to have like John Kent as the main Superman rather than Kal-El? Well, listen, they want to attract younger audiences to Superman. And this is a way you make Superman relatable to young kids. If you've got someone, for example, someone like Asher Angel or Tom Holland playing Superman. Now, I'm not saying they should, because first of all, I don't think they have the height to play the character. But someone like that, Asher Angel, Xolo Maradona, who's playing Blue Beetle, actors like that have this connection with the younger audience. And I think that's why it's very, very important that, and this is the reason I think that James will go with a younger Superman. I think this is the major reason that Henry Cavill is actually out as Superman. Of course, there is other reasons, because he's connected to the previous universe, and the previous universe failed at the box office. It's as simple as that. You can spin it any way you want, but this is a new broom, and it's going to sweep clean whether people like it or not. So this is why I feel he's going to go for a young Superman. And I didn't come up with the theory of John Kent being the new Superman in DC Universe. Someone actually did some artwork and posted it on Twitter and said, could this be James Gunn's and Peter Safran's Superman? And I thought to myself, that's a really, really good idea. You know, because I do think John Kent would be relatable. Could you have the guy who was fired from Superman and Lois playing this character? Probably not. But there's lots of good young actors who could play this role. And as I say, having John Kent as the new Superman would be magic. It doesn't mean you don't have Kal-El there as Superman as well. He can play a role. He can be part of this. They could do that. And, you know, Clark and Lois could already be married. Maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they don't want to repeat that situation. Could he be lying about a younger Superman? Could Tyler Hoechlin end up being James Gunn's Superman? Again, very, very unlikely, but he's a very popular version of the character. He's established. I think he's slightly younger. Not much younger, but younger than Henry Cavill. But again, I don't see that. And regrettably, I don't see us carrying on with Superman and Lois. Now, if it became an exclusive HBO Max show, because it's not going to be on the CW after its next season, one way or the other, because the CW is not going to have DC content. This will be the last year. This is why I feel like the Gotham Knights thing will pretty much only last for one season. I don't even know why they're bothering doing it. But, you know, David Ramsey, who played Diggle, is talking about doing some kind of Justice League-y TV show, and apparently that's still in development. It's very weird because we're looking at a new universe, but maybe Justice U is part of the new DC universe that David Ramsey is developing. Let me be clear about David Ramsey. David Ramsey is a great actor, a very intelligent man, but I would absolutely love him to be the DC universe, let me get my words out, the DC universe's brand new John Stewart. This would make John Stewart slightly older than he normally is, because we've got versions of John Stewart who is younger than the other versions of the Lanterns. Like Hal Jordan, he's always younger than Hal Jordan, I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But I think David Ramsey would be perfect in the role of John Stewart. We'll have to wait and see. So there's a few negative things I want to do some housekeeping before we sign off for today. A bit of a shorter video today because I want to do a Doctor Who video where I talk about Ncuti Gatwa's brand new Doctor Who costume. Very excited to talk about that later on. Look out for it. First of all, obviously there's a lot of negativity coming from the Snyderverse stans and fandom about Henry Cavill and potentially Gal Gadot being replaced as Superman and Wonder Woman. They have a hashtag that's doing very well called Fire James Gunn, blah, 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 things like that. Look, nothing is going to come of this. There's no question about that unless James fails. Now, I was talking to someone on here when yesterday's DC Universe Daily was premiering live, and, you know, they mentioned that they feel that David Zaslav is reactionary, but I did warn you about this. I did warn everyone that he's looking from $700 million to $1 billion box office a movie. And if you don't get that, you are out. He's very reactionary. But maybe this is the way a ruthless businessman should be acting, rather than allowing people like Hamada and Emmerich was doing, you know, a failed Wonder Woman 84 getting greenlit for a Wonder Woman 3, for example. You know, the insane Margot Robbie being allowed to produce and lead a Barbie fucking movie. You have to be ruthless. And if people are making shit that doesn't make any money, shit that makes money, you can keep on greenlighting said shit. So I do like the fact that Zaslav is very, very ruthless in the way he does his business. That's how you become successful in life. I understand the Snyderverse stands frustration, but it's done. Enjoy the Snyderverse trilogy. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's fantastic, but the old DCEU is done, whether you like it or not. My advice is wait to see what James Gunn and Peter Safran do. Maybe you'll actually like it. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, I will judge it and tell you what I think of it when it's on cinema screens, streaming screens, when they do their animation and their gaming. This is all very, very exciting. And if it's executed in the right way, we could have something very special. So that's the Snyderverse stands. I don't see them really achieving anything here unless the James Gunn DC Universe and Peter Safran's DC Universe actually fails. But still, I don't think they'll ever go back to Snyder. It's done. And being negative about his historic tweets just doesn't help you. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to make enemies of the Snyderverse stands. And I'll tell you why. It's not because they're a great number. It's not because they can do any damage. It's the negativity they put on to DC. Because everyone judges and tars DC fans with the same brush. I'm sadly also going to announce today that I have muted Home of DCU and the Flash Film News. Now, I've noticed a lot of rumours and stories about Henry Cavill's behaviour on the Witcher set. Of course, I don't believe any of it. I don't have the details of it, but apparently he acted inappropriately. Personally, I couldn't give a shit. I don't care what happens behind the scenes. If you're doing something I enjoy, I'll give you credit for your work and that's it. I don't care. I'm not there. I can't prove these things. It's like the Justice League stuff, what happened behind the scenes. I can't prove or disprove any of it, but I don't really care. What I care about is the product you give me. So Home of DCU, a page for DC fans on Twitter and wherever else they are, didn't say anything, but liked something negative about Henry Cavill. I am sick and tired of Home of DCU and the Flash Film News, who I feel are run by the same people, saying that Ezra Miller is innocent, then liking something said that's pretty much fake propaganda about a good guy like Henry Cavill. So I am done with those propaganda merchants. And take my advice. Home of DCU and Flash Film News were the ones who were saying the Flash movie has been locked for months. We found out from Boris Kitt and The Hollywood Reporter only about over a week ago that that film is still unlocked, and they proved it again because we're hearing that Gal may even be cut from the Flash movie. We don't know. There's conflicting stories about that situation. So I will not support negative people, because if you're supporting fake negative propaganda against Henry Cavill, what kind of DC fan are you? I don't agree with Snyderverse stans who say if you don't like the Snyderverse. I love the Snyderverse, but if you don't like the Snyderverse, you're not a real DC fan. It's like people saying if you love the Snyderverse, you're not a real DC fan. We're all real DC fans. If you like something from the DC universe in films or in comics, even if it's something that popular belief and myths say is not very good. If it's part of DC, you're a DC fan. No one gets the right to tell you you're not a DC fan. But ultimately, I'm blacklisting Home of DCU and the Flash film news. I'm done with them. You can't start attacking Henry Cavill but saying that Ezra Miller is innocent. It's absolutely pathetic. This has been Sunday's edition of the DC Universe Daily here on Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And ladies, keep calm. I don't mind if you want to cheat on your fellas with me. Come here. And lads, you should have been taking care of business. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.